This is PNC Roundtable.
Hello, this is Rick DeVore, Regional President for PNC Bank, and thank you for listening to PNC Roundtable. It's on this show that we tackle some of the region's tough issues with people who make a difference.
Now here's the PNC Roundtable.
Welcome into PNC Roundtable. Hi, I'm Paul W. Smith, along with my co-host, Regional President Rick DeVore, and a very special guest in Hiram E. Jackson, Managing Partner, Chief Executive Officer, Real Times Media. I'm glad you brought Hiram along. We've got some good things to talk about today.
We really do. The Pancakes and Politics series is a great thing done in the community. As I like to say, it's at the DAC, which I always view as the corner of Main and Main in Detroit. And really, if you want to be involved in what's going on in the community, you got to attend Pancakes and Politics. And Hiram's done a great job in promoting that.
He has. And we should point out that Real Times Media, a multimedia company headquartered right here in Detroit, owns the Michigan Chronicle, and it's been the Michigan Chronicle behind the Pancakes and Politics breakfast all along. Hiram, nice to have you here. Welcome into PNC Roundtable. Tell us a little bit more about Real Times Media and the various companies that you own.
Sure, and let me say first, you guys, thanks for having me. Really appreciate this. I've been an admirer of the show, and I feel very special.
You mean back when you were going to Country Day, you used to listen to us? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, but that was a long time ago, Paul. I'm not that young anymore, so.
Okay.
But I really do appreciate being here. I'm definitely an admirer of the show, and Mr. DeVore here is not only a great customer, he's a great friend. So thanks for having me. Yeah, Real Times Media, as you mentioned, is a national company based here in Detroit. We own 4 community-based newspapers, the iconic Michigan Chronicle, the Chicago Defender, which is, I believe, 107 years old this year, the New Pittsburgh Courier, which was, back in the 30s and 40s, like USA Today for African Americans. One of the most widely distributed black newspapers in the history of black newspapers. And the Atlanta Daily World, of course, based out of Atlanta. We also own the Who's Who Publishing Company, which operates in 25 cities, where we celebrate African American achievement and a lot of the great things that are happening in urban America and around the country. And we have a company called Real Time Studios. We have a great library of African American images that go back over 100 years. And we've been digitizing those images and doing documentaries, and we're going to be providing them online commercially in the next year or so.
Excellent.
So we're busy.
You are busy, and a strong company, that's for sure. And I know now the Michigan Chronicle started this about 9 years ago, maybe.
Yep.
So I think it's your 9th season of Pancakes and Politics. Tell us a little bit about what it is and where the idea or concept came from, if you would, Hiram.
Sure. Well, we're in the print business, and print is rapidly changing. And we knew that the print newspapers were, it was a tough road. And,
tough way to make a living these days.
Absolutely. The demand for the content is through the roof. People want to have a relationship with the paper, but they just want to have a relationship with the content in a different way. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we thought we needed to do is to start doing a lot more outreach and not wait for people to pick up the paper, but in essence, take the paper to them, take the content to them. So we came up with this idea of possibly having town hall meetings. And I remember over a glass of wine with the late, great Sam Logan, we talked about providing a forum where people of color, of different colors and different counties could get together and really talk about the issues of the day. And we wanted a scenario where community people could communicate with the corporate community, clergy could communicate with different folks in the corporate community, and have a kind of a conversation of a diverse conversation. And we came up with this idea of Pancakes and Politics. We thought that people who were serious would get up in the morning, enjoy a good cup of coffee and a great conversation, and we came up with the name Pancakes and Politics, and it's been a hit for 9 years.
It has, and what a visionary Sam Logan was to be able to identify this necessary expansion of what you did beyond print 9-10 years ago. I mean, that's pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. And, we had several conversations about how do we energize our readership? How do we get them to have a more robust relationship with us outside of just reading the paper? And so, Sam always was one to want to aggravate the issues, to create conversation. He used to say all the time, he was successful if he got people to talk about the issues, and that's the essence of Pancakes and Politics.
Yeah, he sure did get people talking. And Rick, you've been involved. Who's the audience? Who attends Pancakes and Politics from your view?
Well, I would also community leaders, not just clergy, but also a number of the city council members are there on a regular basis, county executives, but also business people. And what I like about it, I mean, the content is great, but it's also the before and after, like a lot of events. I mean, it's pretty much a who's who is there, and you want to get there early so that you can get some business done, reacquaint yourself with some contacts. It's just a great venue to do that. And then, of course, afterwards, you still see people doing deals, if you will, or reconnecting and arguing sometimes. I mean, I think some of these issues are tough, and there's no black and white answer. It's kind of a gray many times in these issues. But it really gets people talking, and I think now it's on the docket, so to speak. People know, okay, I'm going to see you at Pancakes next week. We'll cover it there.
Right.
And I know it's overused, the term networking, but certainly there's a good deal of networking that goes on. And from what you've said, Hiram, the format of the program is not for politicians to just come in and pontificate on a platform and say what they want to say. They do that a lot of places. You have pointed out this really is a place for a discussion about real problems facing our community and solutions, as you say, Rick, trying to come to some sort of a conclusion and solution.
Yeah, the name is called Pancakes and Politics, which really is maybe a little bit of a misnomer. It's really about the business of politics, the business of public policy. And, we have, as Rick just said, we have more than just politicians and elected officials. We have chief executive officers of some of the biggest companies in southeastern Michigan. We have the heads of the foundations, not just on the panel, but in the audience. There have been as many as 7 to 10 major chief executive officers in the audience. The issues are important. We don't have any barriers on the discussion, so it's an open forum. Folks in the audience can ask questions. So it's a real authentic audience, and people are given the flexibility to go take the conversation where they want to take it.
And Hiram, given that kind of turnout, you say 7 to 10 major CEOs in the audience, and that you're obviously getting some great support from the business community.
Absolutely. Couldn't do this without the business community. Obviously, PNC has just absolutely stepped up this year. They're our presenting sponsor, and we're absolutely thrilled about that. The thing that I love about Pancakes and Politics is that the companies that were with us 9 years ago are with us today.
Still with you, huh?
Absolutely. And
it's nice to have PNC as a primary sponsor, but let's give a plug to the other sponsors because, again, for all of us, our sponsors are very important for us to be able to provide the services we provide. And without sponsors, I'm sure this wouldn't be possible. So some of the companies maybe that have given you some support?
Oh, sure. I mean, we've had Strategic Staffing Solutions, Honick McMiller, Schwartz & Cohn Law Firm, UHY Accounting
Comcast.
Comcast has been a big supporter of ours, and several more. Just amazing sponsors that have stepped up for us.
Well, that's good, and that's important. And obviously, for you, Rick DeVore, as the regional president of PNC and getting very involved in this as a major sponsor, you're talking right to the people that you need to talk to and interacting with those people.
We really are, and it also helps us get our message out. And this is not the first year we've been involved. We've been a sponsor, to your point, for many years. You know, when I first came here, Paul, one one of the first things somebody said is, you got to go to this Pancakes and Politics. And I'm like, what is Pancakes and Politics? And it was very clear, and I use that analogy a lot about being at the corner of Main and Main because I'm a huge fan of the DAC. But really kind of piggybacking on that concept, this is where you need to be. If you're going to be wanting to be heard about influencing some kind of decision, or you want to weigh in on a decision, maybe you want to clear something up that maybe people don't understand, this is a great platform to do it. And we don't, as a sponsor, we have no rights to the content. There's no like, oh, gee, you can't say this or that. It's open season, so to speak, and that's the way it should be.
I've always felt left out because I'm working. But every year I see this and I go, Pancakes and Politics, here we go again. We're working. We're at work. We can't go. So unless we broadcast from there sometime, I only hear about it. But I always hear good things about it. And maybe some surprises from time to time. Hiram, any surprises we can expect this year?
Well, if I told you, I'd have to shoot you, Paul.
It wouldn't be a surprise, I guess. All right, just between us.
We have had some major developments that have unfolded at Pancakes and Politics every year. The very first Pancakes and Politics was with L. Brooks Patterson and Kwame Kilpatrick. And that
they became such a good partnership for comedy at a variety of events.
Absolutely. I remember the night that we came up with this concept. Sam said, you call Kwame, I'll call Brooks, and we'll make it happen. And it turned out to be a very comical, very nicely done. Last year, our first Pancakes and Politics was 2 days after the emergency manager was named. We've had great timing with these, but I will say that they sell out very quickly. It's not a large audience. We're really focused on making sure the right people are in the room for the dialogue and not having a huge audience. So if people are interested in attending, they should sign up very quickly because it'll shut down fairly quickly. Now
would be a good time to tell us how we can sign up for it.
Sure. Well, you can call the office of the Michigan Chronicle at 313-963-5522. Of course, you can go on our website, michiganchronicle.com, and buy a ticket to attend. You will not be disappointed. Again, we're very happy to be partnering with PNC Bank this year. I think it's Rick and Sean are at every Pancakes and Politics when they're in town. And
as the mayor of Grosse Pointe, does Sean get any special?
He's one of the politicians, right? It's in free.
The unofficial mayor.
Right.
So 313-963-5522. 313-963-5522 at the Michigan Chronicle or the Michigan Chronicle website, michiganchronicle.com. And as Link Bessert quickly brings me the piece of paper just so I can verify, is it March?
It's multiple days.
It's multiple days?
Yes, we have 4 a year.
Okay.
March, April, May, and June, and those dates. Do you have those dates there?
See, we're trying to get the dates. I don't have. I guess the dates aren't solidified.
The first date is March the 13th.
That for sure we know.
And the panelists will be announced very shortly.
Okay, so
we try to keep the topics very current. People always want us to talk about who the panelists are going to be in November and December for the following season. But we try to show restraint because, in this city, you never know what's going to happen. We just had a big vote yesterday with the Illich development.
Right.
Next week, it'll be something else. So we want the content to be fresh. We want to make sure that people are interested in what's going on. But I can tell you that Rick Snyder will be there April the 7th.
All right, that's
and the governor was there last year.
Absolutely.
Mayor,
we usually open up every year with the governor. He is always very entertaining, very interesting conversation with him every year.
Well, look forward to that. And what we'll do is we'll put on the Paul W. Smith page at WJR when all those dates are solidified. We'll be sure to list that. And,
we appreciate
and any
that.
other information that you want. Ann Thomas will jump all over that, and we'll get that online when you know for sure. Now, other than the Kwame and Brooks show, which was always it was a good show. Is there another most memorable Pancakes and Politics moment for you, Hiram Jackson, or for you, Rick DeVore? I'll start with Rick.
Mine probably was basically when Mayor Bing was thinking about the announcement, or maybe not announcement, about running for Wayne County Executive, and him and Brooks going back and forth on that whole issue. That was pretty highly entertaining for me, just to watch the body language of that. And Brooks is a frequent flyer,
In many ways, yes.
As well as Mark Hackle, who's been there, and Mark just kind of stood back and watched this all unfold. But that was pretty entertaining for me.
Gosh, there have been a few. I think I'll give you two quick ones. The reporter, Steve from Channel 7, he was an investigative reporter, Steve Wilson. We put him on a panel, and the chief of police was in the audience, and they went at it pretty tough.
Really?
And that was very spontaneous, and he had been chasing her and following her around, and they met at Pancakes and Politics.
Oh boy!
And so that was, you had to get your popcorn in the front front row seat for that one. And then, we had another one when just shortly after Mayor Kilpatrick, he came every year, so he was always good for a sellout.
Well, free pancakes.
Right. But just after he was, I guess, indicted or being prosecuted, we had a Pancakes and Politics in Birmingham at the Townsend Hotel a week later. And we should have had that one at Cobo Hall because it was a heck of a show.
Quite a turnout, I'm sure.
And all of the media, if the media usually show up, and so it's not just the Michigan Chronicle. It's also been supported heavily by Cranes, Detroit Business, over the last 9 years, as well as CBS TV.
Yeah.
Carol Kane is the moderator, and she's done a great job.
Yeah, and Mary Kramer, publisher of Crane's Detroit Business, they do a nice job. They're going to be involved in the community and involved with the Michigan Chronicle. Why wouldn't you be? It's been the voice of the community for 77 years. 77 years,
Yes.
almost 80 years now.
Yep.
And the topics of discussion, from what I'm picking up here, with Hiram E. Jackson, Chief Executive Officer of Real Times Media, which owns the Michigan Chronicle, among others, and they are the sponsor of this Pancakes and Politics meetings 3-4 times a year. First one coming up March 13th. You really do get into topics that focus on the local happenings as well as the state happenings, and you want to be timely, so you don't put out a list of who's going to be there 6 months from now, because they may not be pertinent to the news. Do you ever get into the national stories, or is that something that you shy away from because there's plenty to talk about locally and regionally?
Yeah, we haven't done many forums, or I can't think of any forums that we've done that had a national spin to it, other than healthcare. We did healthcare a couple of years ago. But and we thought about doing healthcare this year because it's so relevant.
You could do healthcare again and it'd be totally different than what you did.
Absolutely. We did the CEOs of the major hospital, the local hospital companies. We had Mike Duggan and Nancy Schlichting and others. But we try to stay local. We really want to have a discussion that has impact. You can look in the major dailies and still read about the Pancakes and Politics discussion months after it happened.
Yeah.
And that's really what our intent is. We want people to think about the discussion. We don't want it to be just another forum and you pass out a couple of business cards and you walked away. We want people to think about what was talked about, and we go through great lengths to make sure that the audience is diverse. People from, that's the one thing that we're very proud of, that you get people from Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Genesee County coming to these things, people of different races and religions coming to have a discussion about our community, because, we all got to get along together and everyone needs to have a voice in how we move forward. And before Pancakes and Politics, we really felt like there was no vehicle that forced us to communicate. And so the event's been great, but more importantly, it's been important to get people together.
Just as you go to great lengths to have the diversity and all of that, I'm thinking, Rick, that business people oftentimes go to great lengths to not find themselves in a situation where they're political, because they have clients, customers, people they do business with that are on both and all sides of the aisle and fence. So do people, and Hiram, you can weigh in on this too, do business people feel comfortable, all those CEOs, you, Rick, heading up a big bank, do you feel comfortable speaking your mind on political issues in a forum like that?
Well, I think we're comfortable, Paul. I'll be very clear. We're comfortable in supporting having the conversation. We would probably, in our case, not be comfortable taking a side on some issues, because our constituency, if you look at the shareholders and the communities, covers the gamut.
Right.
On both sides of every issue, whether it's politics, whatever, pick a subject.
Right.
But we are supportive that there should be a conversation, and we need to be part of supporting that. But you're right.
But I get the impression that it isn't just, we've already said this, a platform for politicians who will be happy to speak anywhere there's a crowd of one or two people. They're happy to say what they have to say. I suspect that some CEOs say some things too and get involved in the fray.
They do, and I think if you see a tad bit of people being uncomfortable in the audience, that tells me it's probably
working.
It's working.
Absolutely.
and there is tension during the Q&A. I think some people have some very strong views.
Last year Dan Gilbert was one of our panelists, and he's a very outspoken guy, and he has some very solid views about how he runs his business and how he views Detroit. He didn't hold any punches about what he'd like to see. It was very refreshing, quite frankly, to see him or anyone speak freely and not be concerned about being beat over the head in the media.
But it's not easy, and it takes almost at that level a Dan Gilbert who really is calling his own shots and and not worrying to answering somebody. The last guy that did that was Peter Karmanos. And even Peter got kind of a whipping because he had stepped down from his position as chairman and, in fact, had become a consultant, which they pulled on him when he spoke his mind at an event. So,
but the difference there, I think, could be that, Dan, that was part of a public company when Peter was in his capacity at CompuWare.
That was a big difference.
Dan's not a public company. With that said, I'm going to retract what I said earlier about my favorite moment. Now you spurred my thinking. My favorite moment was actually Jesse Jackson taking on Dan Gilbert.
Right.
At this event. Yes.
Are you kidding? At Pancakes and Politics?
So I'm going to go back and retrade and say that was my favorite moment.
Yeah, and what made that so relevant, it was just after LeBron James decided to leave the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, that didn't go over well with Dan.
There was a public conversation between Dan Gilbert and Jesse Jackson where Jesse kind of smacked Dan Gilbert on the wrist and said, "Hey, this is not a plantation. He can go wherever he wants." And Dan Gilbert went back. They went back and forth, and it was great banter. And then Jesse Jackson walked into the room at Pancakes and Politics, but it turned out well. It was a great conversation. They hugged each other and laughed about it.
Really?
Let me say also that the people feel comfortable coming to Pancakes and Politics. Most of the folks that we asked to be on the panel, they have been in the audience before, so they know that it's going to be a respectful conversation.
Right.
And if they have not been a part of the audience, they can very easily call someone and say, "Hey, how did this go for you?" And so they know we're going to have a real conversation, but it's going to be respectful.
And let's talk a little bit about something that's obvious but being unsaid. And I bring this up because our friend Emery King got me involved a few years ago in doing a program on blacks and whites.
Sure.
And it is a constant issue in Detroit, in Michigan, in the United States of America. And it sounds to me what you're saying, Hiram, is everybody's pretty comfortable in this format and forum. We just all need to get more comfortable with each other all the time to be successful. And we all want to be successful. We all want for our kids what everybody else wants for their kids.
Right.
And it sounds like you kind of face that straight up. Now, it always bothers me, and I've known Reverend Jackson for years. You know, they hugged. I kissed. He kissed me, and we back when I was in New York in the '80s with Reverend Jackson. But it does bother me when he throws in something like, "Well, he's not from the plantation." I mean, come on. We do have to get away from that kind of rhetoric. Now, he's kind of made a living on that, but it worked out okay in the end.
Oh, absolutely. And the race relations issue in southeastern Michigan is well documented. I think that we have to do so much better than we've been doing at having that conversation, that race relations discussion. One of the reasons we started Pancakes and Politics is because we felt that there was a lack of dialogue between black people and white people.
It's an uncomfortable conversation.
Absolutely. And it should be uncomfortable. If you're having an honest, authentic conversation, it's going to be uncomfortable. If you're saying what people want to hear, then you're not accomplishing much. This region has been held back for too long because of the lack of discussion. And so at Pancakes and Politics, we make sure that the audience is diverse so that we can force people to address those kind of issues. We have it at the DAC for a reason, the Detroit Athletic Club, because we want people of stature to be able to interact with community leaders and with clergy. So we don't want to have any excuses as to why you can't attend or what the facility is. So, I think that we should, Mary Kramer addressed it in Cranes a few weeks ago. She said that
now's the time to have the discussion.
Now's the time to have the discussion, and I agree with her. And the first 3 years we had a panel called it was called The Economy, Regionalism, and Race Relations. And 9 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do Cobo Hall. I sit on the Zoological Society board. That's a regional entity. The DIA. All of these authority developments have happened over the last 5 to 6 years, and it's because we've made a little progress on regionalism. But you can't say regionalism without really thinking through the race relations complexities. So to your point, I think that, some of our community leaders, we need to continue to force ourselves to have that dialogue. I think it's vitally important. And I think more important now than ever because of how we're progressing as a city. We need everybody at the table.
Absolutely.
We need all views to be successful in the city of Detroit and in our entire region.
We need to continue that. And Hiram, whether it's you and me or getting Emery King back involved or I don't know who the player should be, but we really have to get this discussion going again.
Absolutely.
And we have to come to some kind of resolution so that we can move forward, look forward, and accomplish all the things that we all want to accomplish for the city of Detroit, for the state of Michigan, and for that matter, for these United States. So can we work on that together?
I would love to. You have pancakes, and I'll come and have some pancakes with you, and we can talk race relations.
Pancakes and race relations. Okay. We got to come up with another name. Now the Michigan Chronicle and your company, Real Times Media, Hiram, have a variety of events throughout the year.
Sure.
And not just more Pancakes and Politics, 3 or 4 a year, but some other things that are in community involvements. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, we have a very aggressive strategy to transition our business from, and we have been doing this over the last several years, just from print to a multimedia company. Pancakes and Politics is actually a television show with a taped audience. And we use that content online as well. We're growing our digital platforms all over the country. People want to see us online. So we're really focused on that as well. We're producing documentaries. I'll have more to talk about that later. But our event schedule We do an event called Women of Excellence, where we honor women in the community, women who are doing wonderful things, not just the top-tier corporate women, but women who are involved in a lot of different initiatives and have done some incredible things. And we also have Men of Excellence. We've been doing that for 7 years. We have an event called Pastor Salute, where we go into the community and we recognize various religious leaders and the different exciting things that are happening in the neighborhoods through our churches. And we end the year with a newsmaker gala. It's called Legacy in Motion, where we honor living legends in the community and highlight different people who are making things happen. You hear so many negative things about Detroit. We try to not dwell on the negative, but really focus on individuals and companies and nonprofits who are trying to make a difference in our community.
Good for you. We're a big believer in accentuating the positive, especially in my morning show. So are you saying, Hiram, that if we go to MichiganChronicle.com, we could actually see some of the Pancakes and Politics breakfasts? You mean like videos there?
Yes, you can see footage.
So we can look for the Dan Gilbert piece. We can look for the Kwame and Brooks show and all that.
And Dan Gilbert and George Jackson and Nancy Schlichting and all of the great people who've been participating with us over the last 9 years.
Excellent. Well, I have a homework assignment.
Yes, you do.
To go to MichiganChronicle.com. Boy, a great conversation and a lot. We need to get a final word from Rick DeVore. You've not been able to get a word in edgewise here.
Well, I think, what Hiram was just saying, I think, is at the end of the line, if you're looking for what's the punchline here, I think the Cobo Hall expansion is kind of a metaphor for what we're talking about. I firmly believe that couldn't have happened 7-8 years ago because of these deep-rooted opinions in the other counties maybe, and I think Pancakes and other platforms like this are starting to break that down so we can talk about the region, not just Detroit. And we're, at the bank, we're firm believers that Detroit has to be part of the comeback. It can't be absent, right? And so it's really important. And, regarding guests, if somebody calls me and asks me, hey, give me the scoop, what's it like? I would say that it's respectful, but it's not a bunch of softballs being thrown your way either. And I think it's good practice for some of these folks, especially the politicians, as they go out in the community. If they can, work through this, it's probably a good tune-up for when they go out on the campaign trail.
But Hiram, if you put in a dunk tank for the politicians, I'll take the day off and I'll be there.
That's an idea. It'd be a good fundraising apparatus, right?
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, thank you. Hiram, your last thoughts?
Well, I'd like to thank PNC Bank again. I mean, they have not only been great business partners, as I said, but Rick has been a great friend, a mentor, someone who I can call personally and have a bite to eat with, and we talk about what's going on in the region all the time. He's not just a corporate stiff. He's a great guy. And to
Sean,
all of
is that true, Sean? That's true. Okay, all right, very good.
And just want to get you down there one day to Pancakes and Politics. It's great for our region, and at the Michigan Chronicle, we're working hard to make sure that we have another 80 years of great content and community involvement.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to a relationship and working together with you here at WJR and personally. I can't speak on behalf of the whole radio station all the time. I thank you, Hiram E. Jackson, Managing Partner, Chief Executive Officer, Real Times Media, and, of course, the Michigan Chronicle's Pancakes and Politics. First one is March 13th. It's at the DAC, Detroit Athletic Club. You can go online and get your information and even tickets at MichiganChronicle.com. or call 313-963-5522. And along the way, when the other dates and presenters are announced, we'll have that on the Paul W. Smith page at WJR.com. And we want to thank our co-host, Regional President Rick DeVore. Without PNC, we wouldn't have a roundtable, and we wouldn't have an opportunity like this to meet people like Hiram E. Jackson. Gentlemen, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And on behalf of Regional President, PNC Bank, Rick DeVore, regards, Paul W. Smith.